so much as a warning, life hangs in the balance. Human endeavor turns to chaos. And within seconds, nothing will ever be the same. Ever. Get ready to experience 30 heart-pounding minutes of the most spectacular destruction caught on tape. A chemical explosion in Brazil sends massive storage tanks flying hundreds of feet through the air. An off-road racer is lucky to be alive after his truck is nearly destroyed during an out-of-control barrel roll. It's TV without a speed limit, and everything is guaranteed to be destroyed in seconds. October 2007. A violent downpour pelts a small town near Spain's Atlantic coast. Within 20 minutes, the fast-moving floodwaters reach depths of up to 2 feet, sending residents fleeing for safety and sweeping away everything in its path. More than 40 houses and businesses are under siege. Shop owners struggle to keep rising waters from overtaking their stores. But the powerful current carries away anything that isn't bolted down. Resident Jose Manuel Marquez finds himself trapped in his car as it's pelted by wind, rain, and hail. Rising waters have turned the street into a surging river, threatening to sweep away Jose and other drivers as they helplessly sit in their cars. Jose is unable to move to safer ground due to the unfolding chaos just ahead. On the town's main street, the debris-choked torrent swamps cars and begins to carry them away. Vehicles weighing 2 tons and more are no match for rushing water, now reaching depths of up to 5 feet. A raging mass of nearly 20 automobiles smashes against storefronts. Jose has no choice but to ride out the deluge. Fortunately, his car isn't one of the casualties. Rescue workers search the vehicles for any survivors that may be trapped inside. It later takes heavy machinery to dismantle the wall of cars. 2 people lose their lives, and the Spanish government declares the town a disaster area. Damages from this storm reach $5 million. It's 6 p.m. in the densely populated city of Curitiba, Brazil. A fire erupts at a liquid petroleum storage facility in a suburban area. Fire crews arrive on scene as residents begin fleeing their homes. The flames surround canisters of highly pressurized liquid petroleum gas. And firefighters know that heat from the fire is causing pressure inside the canisters to build. Some officials help evacuate residents, while others keep crowds and concerned families at a safe distance. Finally, the canisters can no longer contain the mounting pressure. The intense blasts rattle nearby homes and spew clouds of toxic smoke. The explosions hurl flaming canisters outside the facility, sparking additional fires. The flames sever power lines, cutting electricity to over 3,500 homes. It takes firefighters 2 hours to finally bring the blaze under control. The storage facility is completely destroyed. Investigators discover nearly 600 gas canisters, over 10 times the amount authorized for the site. Despite the intense flames and flying canisters, only one person is injured with second-degree burns. 2 tons of steel, springs, and rubber take on a rutted track of sweeping turns, high-flying tabletops, and dirt. It's the rough and tumble world of off-road truck racing. Competitors in the Unlimited 2 class race 15 laps around a brand new off-road track. On lap 12, Mexican national Rodrigo Ampudia attempts to move into 3rd place on the straightaway.
So staying right there with Welchel, looking for an opportunity here. Welchel down at the bottom, that right-hander.
But it will come at a huge cost.
Ampudia going to drive to the outside, possibly Welchel filling the middle line.
Up.
There it is.
That was a violent hit.
Drivers usually slow down in between jumps. But Ampudia speeds right out of one jump and into the next.
You can definitely hear Rodrigo never lifts going off the jump. Most of these drivers having to lift just a little bit.
He catches too much air and double flips with a full twist, ripping off his entire rear end housing.
There's that big jump, trying to catch Welchel. Double flips it 1.5 times, actually, before he ever hits the ground.
That is probably the toughest hit these drivers take when they stuff that front bumper into the dirt. It is instantaneous stop.
Watch the impact. Stop. Wow.
16-inch shocks absorb the tremendous force and land Ampudia on all 4 wheels. Moments later, he climbs out of the wreckage uninjured. But Ampudia's truck suffers $25,000 worth of damage, including a bent chassis and a totaled rear differential. 1 month after this accident, Ampudia flips his truck again in the exact same spot. November 1st, 2006. It's a typical afternoon inside this credit union as customers go about their business. But outside, one customer's visit will make this day anything but typical. A woman pulls her SUV into a parking space in front of the credit union and forgets to turn off her engine. When her foot moves off the brake pedal, the car lunges. She tries to stop, but pushes down on the gas pedal instead of the brake. Her 3,300-pound SUV barrels through the front entrance, breaking glass, plaster, and wood, and taking out one of the front doors. The SUV nearly hits an employee, then corners a customer as it strikes his leg. Everyone in the building scrambles to safety. The driver emerges from her car unharmed. After police survey the area, the SUV is backed out through the new opening. No criminal charges are filed against the driver. After this incident, the interior of the credit union is redesigned. All check writing tables and associate desks are moved out of the main lobby. Auto Club Speedway, Fontana, California. These 1,000cc superbikes are just beginning a 12-lap race. Racer Peter Balicki records the action from the middle of the pack with his onboard camera. These bikes hit speeds of up to 140 miles an hour while racing just inches apart. Through each turn, riders must find the exact balance between the downward pull of gravity and the outward pull of centrifugal force. Then, coming out of turn number 2, he sees trouble directly in his path. Rider Luis Asher loses control at over 130 miles per hour, flies off his bike, and tumbles across the track. He then takes a direct hit from Peter's bike. Because the race just started, Luis's tires are still too cold to properly grip the track. Once the tires lose traction, Luis loses control. Luis believes Peter experiences target fixation, a common phenomenon where a rider feels forced to steer in the direction which he's looking. The camera picks up Luis's calls for help. Peter is uninjured. Luis suffers a brain hemorrhage, a collapsed lung, a ruptured spleen, and breaks several bones. His $10,000 motorcycle is totaled. Fortunately, Luis fully recovers, but due to this crash, retires from racing.
Real close to it.
June 2005.
Look at that. Look at the field. Look at the multiple horses.
Tornado tracker David Ewald leads a pair of storm chasers on an expedition in Tornado Alley, the name given to the central plains of the U.S., where 1,000 tornadoes touch down every year.
Large, strong tornado off to the northeast, multiple vortices.
Fueled by the collision of warm, moist air from the south with cool, dry air from the west, the twister tears through fields of crops.
Look at tearing up those trees in there.
Ewald watches as the churning vortex carves a path of destruction.
Look at this big rotating wall cloud. It's gonna be a big wide cone tornado now. There we go.
The tornado bears down on a barn lying directly in its path.
There goes the house. Oh, that one.
Jagged chunks of wood and debris fly through the air as the tornado moves on. Ewald tries to catch up, but he's no match for the fast-moving twister, one so powerful that many miles later it still carries parts of the barn.
And it's still tearing the debris in that house. Oh, it just hit another building.
15 structures are hit, but fortunately, no one is injured. The tornado finally dissipates, but not before leaving its mark. It's just one small part of the $1 billion in destruction tornadoes cause in the U.S. every year.
Oh, that one.
It's one of the most famous boats on the drag circuit. The top alcohol flat bottom known as Habit Forming, owned by Don Bauscher of Las Vegas.
Hear me, baby.
This $150,000 water rocket is an 11-time national event winner and 2005 world champion. And in today's final round of the Lake Fest drag races, Don hopes to earn himself another prize. Reaching speeds of nearly 170 miles per hour in just over 6.5 seconds, it looks like Don's on his way to victory, if he can cross the finish line in one piece. Don gets off to a fast start. But his finish becomes a dangerous display of bounces, hops, and a triple barrel roll. It's a catastrophic explosion of fiberglass and metal. The entire engine rips out of the boat. The breakaway capsule is quickly retrieved and taken to shore. Don is loaded into an ambulance. A few hours later, he's released with no injuries. It's one of the worst crashes in Don's 15-year racing career. But there's a silver lining. He wins the race. (1965). With the United States racing to land a man on the moon by the decade's end, rocket technology is evolving fast. In the spotlight is the Atlas Centaur, an unmanned hybrid rocket. The lower stage is an Atlas ICBM. The Centaur upper stage is the first U.S. rocket to burn liquid hydrogen. With its tremendous boost, Atlas Centaur was originally designed to launch a satellite weighing half a ton. In the pre-dawn darkness on March 2nd, Atlas Centaur 5 is being readied for a test flight. It's a dress rehearsal for the mission that will attempt to land the first unmanned spacecraft on the moon.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
AC-5's main engines ignite and the rocket lifts off. Seconds after liftoff, the Atlas Centaur collapses back down on the pad. Once the engines ignite, the pressure inside the combustion chamber forces gas out of the rocket's end, producing thrust. When the AC-5 drops down on the pad, that pressure, in excess of 3,000 pounds per square inch, has nowhere to go. 300,000 plus pounds of liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, and refined kerosene explode in a cloud of smoke and flames. According to NASA, a faulty valve closed less than 1 second after liftoff, cutting off the fuel flow to both main engines. Deprived of its firepower, AC-5 never has a chance. Atlas Centaur cost over $137 million inflation-adjusted dollars. It's the biggest fireball ever seen at Cape Canaveral. When destruction happens, you know where to find it. Right here on Destroyed in Seconds. I'm Ron Pitts. We'll see you next time.